strategies that's available to help you compound your wealth faster is called a 1031 exchange. Today I'm going to talk about what is a 1031 exchange, timelines and procedures that are important to be followed, and types of ownerships or way to structure your investment exchange. Let's talk about what is a 1031 exchange. 1031 comes after its name in the Internal Revenue Code, section 1031. And what it does is it allows investors to defer capital gains on sales from assets that are sold in investment property and business property. It's important that there be what's called a like-kind exchange. Basically what this means is that real estate must be exchanged for real estate. So unfortunately you can't take and sell an investment property and go buy a yacht or a plane, but there is a lot of flexibility in terms of the types of real estate properties you can purchase. You can take land and buy commercial, single family and buy retail or industrial. And so that's really the key, is that the like kind is between real estate. And applying the purchase proceeds or the sales proceeds must be applied to the next purchase. And that's 100% of the value of the property plus debt. So 100% must be equal or greater value. Let's talk a little bit about timeline and procedures, because this is a really important part of the 1031 exchange. First of all, you must identify replacement properties within 45 days from the point of sale. There are a couple of rules associated with that. One of them is called the 3-property rule. What that means is basically you can identify up to 3 properties, regardless of value, as the replacement property. And if you've invested for real estate for a period of time, you realize that it may be difficult to secure or find a property within 45 days. So it's always advisable to start as soon as you start looking for your next property, as soon as you know that you're going to sell yours. There's also the 200% rule. The 200% rule says that you can identify 4 or more properties as long as the total does not exceed 200% of the asset that you sold. Now, the acquired property must be purchased within 180 days from the point of sale. This is also a very hard rule. There's no exceptions or extensions, and so it's important that you have the property lined up and that next property is acquired within that period of time. And last on this point is the seller cannot receive or control the proceeds. What this means is that the proceeds have to go through a third-party custodian, often called a qualified intermediary, or QI for short. It's really important that you do your due diligence when it comes to qualified intermediaries. I think we all have heard horror stories about QIs that are not operating as fiduciaries, and so ideally you have a referral or introduction from a professional that you trust. Now, there are different ways to acquire your replacement property. The first way I want to talk about is direct. What I mean by that is that you are operating as the general partner, you are controlling that asset, and you determine the exit strategy of that next property. And for most investors that want to control those assets, this is the way that they're going to perform their 1031. However, there is the ability to have multiple investors, and this is also referred to as a DST, or Delaware Statutory Trust. And essentially you are going in as a passive investor along with many other investors, and you are not in control of those assets. So there is a third party that will be controlling the assets and the liquidity event for that. Essentially you are a passive investor that you will be collecting income from those properties. It also can provide diversification as well. So unlike exchanging one property for another, a DST can have hundreds of properties within there that can provide additional diversification. And you can also do a combination of those two. So you can find a property to exchange into, but let's say that there's a shortfall and you want to fill in that gap. You could then use a Delaware Statutory Trust to accomplish that. So those are the 2 main ways to structure that ownership. In summary, 1031 is a great way to provide tax deferred, and if we can avoid paying taxes or minimize taxes, that's going to help you accelerate your wealth building process. There are certain rules that must be followed, and so it's important that you hire a qualified intermediary that is operating in your best interest, and Last, the flexibility is important in terms of the ability to provide different investment options. And last but not least, make sure that you consult your team of CPAs and financial advisors to make sure that the execution